20 minutes ago, my boss was laughing at my boring security files. Right now, federal agents are dragging him out in zip ties for espionage. My name is Owen Mitchell, I'm 48 years old, and this is how I ended his career. Let me back up and tell you what really happened. If you saw me walking into Midwest Industrial Supply Corp that Tuesday morning, you wouldn't think much. Just another middle-aged guy in a navy polo and khaki pants, carrying a beat-up ThinkPad and black coffee that had already gone cold. I drive a 2018 Ford F-150 with 180,000 miles on it. Runs like a dream because I maintain it myself. To everyone in this Ohio building, I'm Owen from security, the guy who sends emails about password policies and makes sure the loading dock cameras work. I eat the same turkey sandwich at 12:15 every day, and nobody bothers me. That's exactly how I like it. What they don't know is what I really do. I spent 12 years in the Navy before this job, mostly logistics and supply chain security. Did 2 tours managing supply routes in the Persian Gulf. These days, people think I'm just another washed-up veteran counting days to retirement. They have no idea. Midwest Industrial Supply does move industrial equipment. We ship hydraulic pumps to Detroit, conveyor belts to Cleveland, boring stuff that keeps America's factories running. About 70% of our inventory is legitimate industrial supply. Perfect cover for the other 30%. The other 30% is my department. I don't move hydraulic pumps. I coordinate transport of decommissioned missile guidance systems. I handle volatile chemical compounds from decommissioned drone fuel cells. I move things that don't have commercial names, just alphanumeric codes that would make a TSA agent quit on the spot. I'm not just a security analyst, I'm a Class 5 government liaison with clearance high enough that I could legally detain anyone in this building if they tried to access what's on my laptop right now. But I can't tell anyone that. To them, I'm just boring Owen who fixes the printer and sends reminders about data backup protocols. My boss thinks I'm a relic. Caleb Winters is 43, looks like he was assembled in a boardroom from spare parts labeled generic executive. He's the owner's son, which explains everything about how he got his director position. Guy wears $300 jeans with dress shirts to look approachable, but has never loaded a truck or worked a weekend in his life. For 8 years, he's treated me like the office dinosaur he can't fire because HR likes my military background. This morning started like any other. I was reviewing transport manifests when Caleb strolled by my cubicle, coffee in hand, that familiar smirk on his face. "Morning, old school," he said, leaning against my partition. That's what he calls me, old school. Always with that condescending tone that suggests my methods are outdated, my experience irrelevant. "Good morning, Caleb," I replied, not looking up from my screen, still using that ancient ThinkPad. He chuckled. "Owen, it's 2024. The company can spring for a MacBook. Join the modern world." I kept typing. "This one works fine." "That's the problem with your generation," Caleb continued, settling in for one of his lectures. "You get comfortable with old systems and refuse to adapt. No wonder our efficiency metrics are lagging." Our efficiency metrics were actually 97%, but I wasn't about to correct him. Not yet. "Speaking of which," Caleb said, "I need you to attend the department meeting at 2. We're rolling out a new transparency initiative. Revolutionary stuff. Might learn something about how modern companies actually operate." He walked off, high-fiving Preston from marketing, who looks like he was 3D printed by a tech startup. 20 minutes later, Caleb was back, this time with his laptop bag. "Owen, buddy, I need a favor," he said, but his tone made it clear this wasn't really a request. "My machine's doing that spinning wheel thing again. And it's at lunch. I need to project quarterly metrics for the meeting." He set his bag down and looked at my ThinkPad. "Just let me borrow yours for the presentation. Simple PowerPoint stuff. I'll have it back in an hour." "I can't do that, Caleb," I said, my voice level and professional. "My system contains sensitive security protocols that aren't configured for presentations." Caleb laughed. It wasn't a pleasant sound. "Sensitive protocols? Owen, what do you think this is, the Pentagon? We ship industrial equipment to factories. Your security protocols are probably just Excel spreadsheets with employee phone numbers." I kept my expression neutral, but something cold was forming in my chest. "The system isn't compatible with external displays. Everything's compatible with HDMI, Owen. That's how technology works." He was getting that tone now, the one he used when he thought he was educating the help. "Look, I get it. You're protective of your little fortress here. But we're all on the same team. One company, One mission, remember? I looked at him standing there in his expensive jeans and designer cologne, talking to me like I was some kind of computer-illiterate janitor. This man who'd never served his country, never earned anything through merit, never faced real responsibility in his entire privileged life. "Caleb," I said carefully, "I strongly advise against using my laptop for the presentation." "Advise?" His eyebrows went up. "Owen, I'm not asking for advice. I'm the director of business development. You're a security analyst. This is how the chain of command works. The chain of command." If only he knew what kind of chain of command I actually answered to. I watched him check his expensive watch. Probably cost more than I made in a month. "Department meeting starts in 10 minutes. Don't make me look bad in front of the team because you're being territorial about office equipment." He was walking away before I could respond, calling back over his shoulder, "Conference room, 2 o'clock sharp, bring the laptop." I sat there for a moment, listening to him laugh with Preston about something. Probably me. Probably my outdated military mindset or my resistance to innovation. I looked at my screen, at the classified interface hidden behind what looked like a standard inventory management system. I looked at the red folder in my bottom desk drawer, the one labeled OSHA Safety Updates 2019-2024 that nobody would ever want to open. Inside that folder was the hard copy manifest for Operation Ironside. A cold, calculated thought was forming in my mind. Caleb wanted transparency. He wanted to show everyone what the old military guy actually did all day. He wanted to embarrass me in front of the whole department for a cheap laugh. Fine. I'd give him exactly what he asked for. I waited until he was out of earshot, then typed a 14-digit access code into what looked like a standard inventory spreadsheet. The screen flickered, and suddenly I was looking at a masked interface for the Department of Defense Logistics Network. The red folder in my bottom desk drawer isn't actually red. That would be too obvious. It's black, labeled OSHA Safety Updates 2019-2024. Nobody in corporate America has ever voluntarily opened something with that title. Perfect camouflage. Inside that folder are the hard copy verifications for what we call ghost routes. These are transport paths that don't exist on civilian GPS. They're the roads our specialized trucks take when they're carrying something that could level downtown Cleveland. Today's manifest was Operation Ironside. On paper, it looked like surplus electronics heading to a Colorado recycling facility. In reality, it was 12 decommissioned missile guidance systems being transported to a secure disassembly site in the Rockies, the kind of technology that guides warheads to targets with pinpoint accuracy. The protocols are military-grade strict. Digital files encrypted 7 ways from Sunday. My screen has a polarizing filter so you can't read it from angles. And most importantly, under absolutely no circumstances is this data ever displayed on an unsecured network. I was reviewing the Ironside route, checking bridge clearances because our specialized trucks run 8 inches taller than standard rigs, when I heard Caleb's voice getting louder in the break room. Problem with Owen's generation is they think experience trumps innovation. Guys still using Windows XP probably. Laughter from the marketing team. I keep telling him to upgrade his systems, but he's stuck in 1995. Probably still has a flip phone. More laughter. I could hear Preston's distinctive snort. Military guys, you know? They learn one way of doing things and that's it forever. No flexibility, no adaptation. That's why we're falling behind in efficiency metrics. I took a sip of my black coffee and continued working. Let them laugh. In exactly 47 minutes, we'd see who was really outdated. At 1:55, I saved my work and closed the secure interface, but I didn't log out completely. I left the biometric authentication active. The Operation Ironside window minimized to my taskbar where it sat like a loaded weapon waiting to be fired. I picked up the ThinkPad. It felt heavier than usual, like I was carrying a briefcase full of dynamite. The conference room smelled like stale coffee and ambition. Glass walls on 3 sides, big enough for 30 people, but we only had about 25 today. Day shift supervisors, accounting staff, marketing team, couple of warehouse managers who looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. And Caleb, standing at the head of the table in his $300 jeans and dress shirt combo, looking like he was about to deliver a TED Talk on disrupting the logistics industry. "All right, team, let's get started," he announced, clapping his hands. "Big things happening in Q4, revolutionary changes coming down the pipeline." I sat in the back corner, laptop balanced on my knees. the spot usually reserved for extra chairs and broken equipment, where the old-timers sit. Before we dive into the exciting stuff, Caleb continued, I want to talk about something that's been bothering me. Efficiency. Specifically, the disconnect between old-school methods and modern solutions. He was looking right at me. We have team members who are still using processes from the Clinton administration, still treating every piece of paperwork like it's nuclear launch codes, scattered chuckles, still acting like a simple data request is some kind of national security issue. Preston was grinning. A couple of the sales guys were nodding along. Now, I'm not naming names, Caleb said, his eyes locked on mine, but we all know who I'm talking about. The resistance to change, the hoarding of information, the paranoid approach to basic business operations. Nicole from HR shifted uncomfortably. She could sense where this was heading. So today, in the spirit of our new transparency initiative, I thought we'd take a look at what really goes on in some of our departments. What kinds of sensitive work is keeping certain people so busy they can't adapt to modern workflows? He gestured toward me. Owen, bring that laptop up here. Let's show everyone what security actually does all day. The room went quiet. This wasn't part of the usual quarterly review. This was public humiliation disguised as team building. I stood up slowly, laptop in hand. I could feel 25 pairs of eyes on me, some curious, some embarrassed for me, some clearly enjoying the show. Caleb, I said, my voice calm and professional, I strongly recommend against this. Oh, come on, Owen, he said with a big smile. Don't be shy. We're all family here. No secrets, right? That's what transparency means. I walked to the front of the room and set the ThinkPad on the podium. The HDMI cable was already connected, ready to mirror everything onto the massive 80-inch display behind Caleb. Caleb, I said quietly, there are sensitive files open on this system. Please be careful what you access. Sensitive files, he repeated, turning to the audience with exaggerated amazement. Did you hear that? Sensitive files for shipping hydraulic pumps to Detroit. Laughter rippled through the room. Don't worry, Owen. I'm just going to pull up my PowerPoint. I'm not going to hack into the CIA or anything. More laughter. Though with your level of paranoia, I'm starting to wonder what you're really hiding in there. He minimized his PowerPoint presentation. My desktop appeared on the giant screen. Clean blue background, standard corporate wallpaper. But there in the taskbar, blinking softly like a heartbeat, was a minimized window labeled DoD Secure Node Alpha 7. Okay, Caleb said, rubbing his hands together theatrically. Let's see what kinds of classified work Owen's been doing. What earth-shattering secrets are we protecting here? He moved the cursor toward the blinking tab. My hand found the secure phone in my pocket. Thick, military-grade device that looked like it survived a war zone. Because it had. Caleb, I said one more time, please don't open that. Relax, Owen, he said, grinning at his audience. What's the worst that could happen? He clicked on the tab. The window maximized. It wasn't a spreadsheet, it wasn't PowerPoint. It was a high-resolution, real-time satellite map of the central United States, overlaid with bright red vector lines showing active military transport routes. In the center of the screen, a massive dialog box appeared in stark red letters. Classified Transport Manifest. Operation Ironside Payload. MK-47. Guidance Systems. Decommissioned, volatile current location. Sector 7. I-70. Corridor. 39.0458. Again. 94.5786. Degree W. Clearance level. TS. SCI. No foreign access. Authorized personnel only. The room went dead silent. Caleb blinked at the screen like he was trying to process a foreign language. What? What the hell is this? Is this some kind of flight simulator? Are you playing video games at work, Owen? He didn't understand. He was looking at the live GPS coordinates of a convoy carrying nuclear-capable guidance systems, and he thought it was entertainment software. Then he made it worse. Look at this, everyone, Caleb said, pointing at the display with his laser pointer. The red dot danced across classified coordinates. It says, Guidance Systems. Owen's been playing Missile Command during work hours. This is where your efficiency problems are coming from, folks. He zoomed in on the map. The satellite image showed a truck stop off I-70 just outside Kansas City. On the giant screen, clearly visible to 25 uncleared civilians, was the exact real-time location of 12 decommissioned warhead guidance systems worth more than the entire state budget of Ohio. This route here, Caleb continued, tracing the red line with his pointer, looks like he's pretending to ship missiles to Colorado. Very creative, Owen. Very detailed for a video game. Preston was taking pictures with his phone. 3 other people had their devices out recording Caleb's presentation. A classified military transport manifest was being broadcast to social media in real time. I looked at the clock on the wall, 2:18 p.m. The breach was total. The data was exposed. The ghost route was compromised. Something inside me went cold and calm. Not panic. Calculation. 12 years of Navy training kicked in like muscle memory. I didn't rush forward to close the laptop. That would suggest this was fixable. This wasn't fixable. This was a level 5 containment failure, the kind that triggers protocols most people don't even know exist. I took the secure phone out of my pocket. I didn't need to look at it. I knew the emergency sequence by heart. Biometric unlock, red app icon, breach confirmation, authorization code. A single short vibration buzzed against my palm. Message received. I looked at Caleb, still pointing at classified coordinates, still treating state secrets like a joke. "It's not a game, Caleb," I said quietly. "Sure it's not," he laughed, turning back to zoom in further on the truck stop location. "Look, you can even see the parking lot. Very realistic graphics, Owen. Must have cost us a fortune in software licenses." He had no idea what he'd just done. In his mind, he was winning. He was exposing the old guy's time-wasting habits, proving his point about outdated employees. He didn't know I'd just locked both of us in a cage with a very angry tiger. I sat down calmly, crossed my legs, folded my hands over the phone in my lap. There's a specific kind of silence that happens right before everything changes. In nature, it's the moment before lightning strikes. In the military, it's the pause before incoming artillery. In the conference room of Midwest Industrial Supply Corp., Preston was still giggling about missile games and asking if he could download it. I watched the second-hand tick. 2:19:15. The protocol for Level 5 breaches is completely automated. It's designed to contain security leaks faster than human stupidity can spread them. It doesn't depend on local authorities or corporate security. It relies on a private contractor authorized under National Security Presidential Directive 51. We call them the cleaners. At exactly 2:20, the Wi-Fi died. "Hey," someone in the back said, "my email just went down." "Mine too," said Nicole from HR. "I was in the middle of uploading payroll to the bank." The little signal bars on everyone's phones went from full to 0 in unison. Caleb waved dismissively. "It probably rebooted the router. Focus, people, I'm trying to demonstrate workflow inefficiencies here." I watched the lights on the Cisco router mounted in the glass corner, usually green and blinking frantically. Now they glowed solid amber. Phase 1, digital blackout. All outgoing communications were being severed to prevent the leaked data from reaching public networks. If Preston had tried to upload those photos to Instagram, the packets were already dead in the water. My phone vibrated twice. Phase 2, physical containment. "Caleb," I said. He ignored me, still playing with the zoom function on the satellite map. "Caleb," I repeated louder. "What now?" he snapped, not taking his eyes off the screen. "I'm in the middle of showing everyone your little hobby here. You should check the door." Caleb looked at me like I'd suggested he check for unicorns. "The door? Why?" "Just check it." He sighed dramatically, threw his hands up and walked over to the conference room door. It was heavy tempered glass with brushed steel hardware, the kind that says modern office design. He grabbed the handle and pulled. Nothing happened. He pulled harder. The glass rattled in its frame, but the door didn't budge. "What the hell?" Caleb muttered. He braced his foot against the frame and yanked with both hands. Still nothing. "It's stuck," he announced to the room. "The door's jammed." Preston jumped up to help. "I got you, boss." Both of them grabbed the handle and pulled. The door stayed locked tight. "Did someone lock us in?" Caleb asked, turning to glare at me. "Magnetic locks are electronic," I said calmly. "They're controlled by the building's security system. Well, call maintenance, Caleb demanded. Tell them to unlock it. With what? I asked. Phones are down. A nervous murmur started spreading through the room. The laughter was gone. The air suddenly felt thinner. This is ridiculous, Caleb said, his face starting to redden. There has to be a fire alarm. Fire codes require manual egress. I'll just pull the alarm and the doors will unlock automatically. I wouldn't recommend that, I said. Why the hell not? I stood up slowly, smoothing down my polo shirt. I let the mask slip just a little bit, let my military posture show through. Because we're not having a fire drill, Caleb, and we're not having a technical malfunction. I walked to the window that overlooked our parking lot. Look outside. Half the room rushed to the glass. In the parking lot below, massive yellow steel bollards were rising out of the pavement with hydraulic precision, the kind designed to stop truck bombs. Heavy metal shutters were rolling down over every entrance to the building. The mechanical sound of emergency lockdown systems echoed through the walls. What's happening? Jennifer whispered, clutching her notebook. Is it terrorists? Terror was flashing in their eyes now. This was beyond their experience. No, I said, turning back to face the room. It's not terrorists. I straightened my shoulders fully. 12 years of Navy discipline took over. It's a federal containment protocol, I said, looking directly at Caleb, because someone just broadcast the location of a classified military transport to 25 unauthorized civilians. For the first time since I'd known him, Caleb Winters was completely speechless. For 5 seconds, nobody moved. They just stared at me like the office IT guy had suddenly announced he was running the CIA. Federal containment? Caleb laughed, but it was nervous now, high-pitched. Come on, Owen. Very funny. You really committed to this elaborate prank. What is this, some kind of escape room experience? Are we going to be on YouTube? Look at the screen, Caleb, I said calmly. He turned around. The satellite map was gone. The weapons manifest had vanished. The screen was now completely black except for a single pulsating logo in the center, the Department of Homeland Security seal. Below it, a countdown timer, 42:37. That's just a screensaver, Caleb said, his voice wavering. That's just graphics. Thunk! The overhead fluorescent lights cut out. The room plunged into darkness for exactly 3 seconds before red emergency lighting kicked in. The familiar hum of the HVAC system died, replaced by the deep mechanical hiss of air filtration systems sealing the building. Oh God, Nicole started hyperventilating. We're trapped in the dark. Everyone stay calm, Caleb shouted, trying to find his director voice in the red gloom. It's just a power outage. The shutters are automatic storm protocol. It's probably just weather sensors malfunctioning. It's 75 degrees and sunny outside, Preston pointed out, his voice shaking. Shut up, Preston. Caleb fumbled for his phone, frantically tapping the screen. Why won't this connect? I need to call my father. He needs to know what's happening to his building. There's a localized signal jammer active, I said, walking to the head of the table. Caleb's usual spot. It blocks all cellular and Wi-Fi frequencies within a 2-mile radius to prevent data exfiltration. Nothing electronic goes in or out until they clear the site. Who is they? Asked Jennifer, voice trembling. People coming to investigate why Caleb just projected the real-time location of a nuclear weapons transport convoy onto a wall in front of 25 uncleared civilians, I said. Caleb spun around, his face a mask of sweat and red light. Stop saying nuclear. I projected a video game. You hacked my presentation. You put that fake military stuff there to embarrass me in front of my team. The denial was almost impressive. He was staring at a federal lockdown and still trying to make this about office politics. Caleb, I said, my voice cutting through his panic like a blade, you commandeered my laptop. You ignored 3 verbal warnings. You bypassed security alerts and broadcast classified coordinates. There are cameras in this room. The webcam on my laptop was recording. They have everything. Who has everything? Caleb screamed. Who's watching us? Defense Intelligence Agency, I said. Probably NSA by now, maybe CIA if they think there's foreign involvement. Caleb backed up until he hit the whiteboard, leaving a smudge of sweat on the surface. But I'm the director. I have executive authority. My father owns this company. I have clearance for everything in this building. You run a shipping company that moves industrial equipment, I corrected him. You don't have clearance for Operation Ironside. By forcing me to display TSSCI material, you violated the Espionage Act of 1917, Section 793. Unauthorized. Disclosure of national defense information. The room went silent except for Nicole's quiet sobbing. Espionage? Caleb's voice cracked. I love America. I donate to veteran charities. I have a Support Our Troops magnet on my truck. Intent is irrelevant under federal statute, I said, reciting regulations I'd memorized 15 years ago. Unauthorized disclosure is unauthorized disclosure. Criminal negligence is not a defense. The countdown timer on the screen ticked down, 35:22. What happens when it reaches 0? Jennifer asked through her tears. That's when the breach response team arrives, I said. They're currently inbound via helicopter from the Kansas City field office. They'll secure the building, detain everyone for interrogation, confiscate all electronic devices, and arrest whoever's responsible for the leak. 25 pairs of eyes turned to look at Caleb. Now wait just a minute. Caleb held up his hands desperately. This is Owen's laptop. He brought it to the meeting. He handed it to me. You all saw it. If there's classified stuff on there, that's his fault, not mine. We saw you demand it, Preston said quietly. He told you no. You ordered him to bring it anyway. I was managing my team, Caleb protested. Looked like bullying to me, said the maintenance supervisor from the back row. The corporate hierarchy was collapsing. The tribe was turning on their chief. Listen to me, Caleb pleaded, sweat pouring down his face. We can fix this. Owen, you know these people, right? Call them off. Tell them it was an accident. Tell them it was a training exercise. I looked at the man who had spent 8 years treating me like an incompetent relic, who had mocked my military service, questioned my methods, and tried to humiliate me in front of the entire staff. I can't call them off, Caleb, I said. I'm just the security analyst, remember? I just handle boring paperwork and outdated protocols. Don't give me that bureaucratic garbage, Caleb lunged forward and grabbed my arm. You obviously know what's happening here. Fix it, or I swear I'll fire you the second this is over. I looked down at his hand on my sleeve. Physical assault on a federal officer during an active containment event, I said calmly. That's a separate felony charge. Caleb jerked his hand back like I'd burst into flames. Federal officer? He whispered. I stood up slowly and smoothed the wrinkles in my polo where he'd grabbed me. For the first time in 8 years, I let my military bearing show completely. Sit down, Caleb. It wasn't a request. It was an order delivered with the authority of someone who'd spent 12 years giving orders that people's lives depended on. For the first time in Midwest Industrial Supply Corporation's history, Caleb Winters did exactly what I told him to do. The sound of rotors began thumping against the glass. Heavy military rotors, multiple aircraft. The cavalry had arrived. The red emergency lighting gave everyone a demonic cast, but it suited the moment. The illusion of normal, corporate life was completely dead. We were now in a federal crime scene. Listen carefully, I said, my voice carrying easily through the room without shouting. You have approximately 8 minutes before the extraction team breaches this building. If you want to walk out of here instead of being carried out in restraints, you'll do exactly what I tell you. Even Caleb nodded. Put your company badges on the table. Put your phones on the table. Wallets, keys, anything electronic. If you have flash drives, wireless earbuds, fitness trackers, anything with a chip, put it on the table now. These operators have equipment that can detect a Bluetooth device inside your sock. Do not make them search you. The sound of metal and plastic hitting mahogany filled the room. Owen? It was Jennifer, barely whispering. What do we really do here? I thought we just shipped pumps and conveyor belts. I looked at these people. They were annoying sometimes, sure, but they were innocent. They were just trying to make a living, support their families, maybe save enough for a decent retirement. We do ship industrial equipment, I said, but Midwest Industrial is also a dual-use logistics front. The government needs legitimate commercial traffic to camouflage secure military transports. It's basic operational security. You hide the needle in a haystack. We're the haystack? Preston asked. Exactly. All those times the inventory numbers seemed off. I was adjusting manifests to account for classified cargo. All those nights the freight elevator was under maintenance. We were moving weapons components to the secure storage facility in our basement. Those contract drivers who work nights and never socialize, they're private military contractors with top-secret clearances. The maintenance guy's eyes went wide. That's why I can't access the sub-basement. and why there's that separate fiber optic line I'm not allowed to touch. Direct encrypted uplink to the Pentagon, I confirmed. Caleb slowly raised his head. His spray tan was streaking down his cheeks like cheap mascara. And you've known this the whole time? You let me run this company like a fool? You don't run the classified side, I said. That's my department. My job is to coordinate secure logistics while maintaining the appearance of a normal shipping company. My job is keeping the dangerous cargo secure and invisible. Today, you made it very visible. I just wanted to show the transparency metrics, Caleb whispered. You got more transparency than you bargained for. A synthesized voice suddenly echoed from hidden speakers throughout the building. Attention, all personnel. Containment protocol is now active. This facility is under federal control. Remain in your current positions. Any attempt to move or resist will be considered hostile action. Are they going to shoot us? Nicole whimpered. Not if you follow instructions, I said. When they come through that door, they're going to come in fast and loud. They'll be wearing full tactical gear and pointing automatic weapons. Do not move your hands. Do not speak unless they ask you a direct question. Just keep your eyes on the table and let them secure the room. What about you? Preston asked. Are you getting arrested too? I walked to the window and looked through a gap in the security shutters. Blue and red lights were flashing in the distance. A whole convoy of federal vehicles setting up a perimeter. In the sky, I could see the running lights of at least 3 helicopters. I'm the one who triggered the containment protocol, I said. In their eyes, I'm the asset who prevented a worse breach. I'm the guy who kept this from becoming an international incident. You set us up, Caleb said, but there was no anger left in his voice, just broken confusion. I did my job, I replied. I protected classified information. The fact that you got caught in the process is entirely your own fault. The helicopters were getting louder now. The whole building was starting to vibrate. I'm the director, Caleb mumbled, like a prayer he'd stopped believing in. Not anymore. Boom! The door to the conference room exploded inward, not with explosives, with a pneumatic battering ram that turned the magnetic lock mechanism into scrap metal. Glass showered the carpet like deadly confetti. Federal agents, hands where we can see them, nobody move. 6 operators in full tactical gear poured through the breach. Black helmets, ballistic face shields, ceramic body armor, weapons that looked like they belonged in a war zone. No name tags, no agency identification. Just efficient, professional violence. Down, hands on the table, eyes down. I put my palms flat on the mahogany and lowered my head, but I kept watching, especially Caleb. Caleb was sitting frozen, staring at the muzzle of an M4 carbine pointed directly at his face. I said, "Get down," the lead operator shouted. I'm the director of this company, Caleb replied, his voice cracking with terror and disbelief. You can't treat me like this. I want to see a warrant. I want to call my lawyer. My father owns this building. It was the ultimate "do you know who I am" moment, delivered to someone whose entire job was dealing with people who thought they were too important for consequences. The operator didn't argue, didn't show a badge or read rights. He simply stepped forward, grabbed Caleb by his expensive shirt, and slammed him face first into the conference table. Crack! The sound of Caleb's nose meeting hardwood echoed through the room. Blood immediately began pooling on the polished surface. Subject secured, the operator reported into his radio. We have the primary target. I'm not a target, Caleb gurgled through the blood and wood. I'm a victim here. This is Owen's fault. He's the one with the classified files. Another operator was moving down the line of employees, zip-tying their hands behind their backs with practiced efficiency. When he reached me, he paused. He looked at the military-grade phone sitting on the table in front of me, then at my face. He tapped his earpiece and spoke in a low voice. Control, I have Agent Mitchell. Asset is secure and accounted for. Request confirmation of status. He listened for a moment, then nodded. Copy that. He didn't zip-tie me. Sir, he said, his voice muffled but respectful behind his tactical mask. Please stand up slowly. I stood. The entire room gasped. Preston, his face pressed against the table, looked up at me with wide, terrified eyes. Agent, he whispered, you're really one of them? Silence, another operator barked. The lead operator, the one holding Caleb down, looked over at me. Agent Mitchell, please confirm the source of the security breach. I looked at Caleb, pinned to the table like a biology specimen. Blood was dripping from his broken nose onto his expensive jeans. "The source is the individual you have restrained," I said, my voice steady and official. Caleb Matthew Winters, Director of Business Development. He forcibly commandeered a secure DoD terminal, ignored multiple verbal warnings, and broadcast Operation Ironside manifest data to 25 uncleared personnel. He acted independently, against direct orders, and in violation of established security protocols. I gestured toward my coworkers, most of whom were zip-tied and shaking. "The other personnel present are witnesses only. They have no knowledge of classified operations and are not considered security risks." "Understood, sir," the operator said. He leaned down close to Caleb's ear. "Mr. Caleb Matthew Winters, you are being detained under Title 18, Section 793 of the United States Code, gathering, transmitting, or losing defense information. You have the right to remain silent, though I doubt you'll use it." "Losing?" Caleb sobbed into the table. "I didn't lose anything. It was just on the screen. It was just a computer screen." "Get him up," the lead operator ordered. 2 agents hauled Caleb to his feet. His nose was clearly broken, bent at an unnatural angle. His designer shirt was soaked with blood and tears. He looked nothing like the confident executive who'd been mocking my outdated methods 2 hours ago. "Owen!" Caleb screamed as they started dragging him toward the demolished doorway. "Owen, tell them I didn't know. We worked together. I trusted you." I didn't say anything. I just watched as they pulled him through the shattered glass, his expensive shoes leaving little smears of blood on the carpet. As they reached the hallway, Caleb managed to turn his head back toward me one last time. The look on his face wasn't anger anymore. It was pure, devastated confusion. Even now, even with federal agents dragging him away in restraints, he still didn't understand how the boring old security guy had just destroyed his entire life. The last thing I heard before they got him to the elevator was him screaming for his father. 3 hours later, the building was cleared. The shutters rolled back up, letting afternoon sunlight stream through the conference room windows. It was surreal, like stepping out of a movie theater in the middle of the day. The federal team had been thorough. Every employee had been questioned, photographed, fingerprinted, and released with a non-disclosure agreement thick enough to stop a bullet. The NDAs basically said, "Talk about this and spend the rest of your life in federal prison," but in much more detailed legal language. Everyone's personal devices had been confiscated for forensic analysis. Company reimbursement forms would be processed within 6 to 8 weeks. I was alone in the wreckage of the conference room, looking at the bloodstain on the mahogany table where Caleb's nose had met corporate reality. I took out a cigarette, my first one since quitting the Navy, and lit it with a Zippo I'd carried through 2 deployments. My secure phone buzzed with a text message. "Operation Ironside secure at final destination. Convoy reached Colorado facility without incident. Outstanding work, Agent Mitchell. Promotion paperwork being processed." I deleted the message and walked out to the main office floor. It was empty except for a few maintenance workers sweeping up broken glass and replacing the conference room door. On my desk was a new keycard and a memo on official letterhead. "Owen Mitchell, Regional Security Director, effective immediately." I walked over to Caleb's corner office and used the new keycard to open the door. I sat down in his leather executive chair and fired up his computer. It was already logged into my new account with expanded access privileges. I had a notification waiting. Operation Sidewinder. Classified biological transport. Route authorization required. I opened the file and began reviewing the manifest. More dangerous cargo that needed to move invisibly from point A to point B. More monsters that needed to stay in their boxes. Most people think logistics is about moving boxes and managing spreadsheets. They think the world runs on politicians and generals and CEOs. They're wrong. The world runs on people who make sure the really dangerous stuff gets where it needs to go without anyone noticing. It runs on invisible people in polo shirts and khakis who know how to keep secrets and follow protocols and stay quiet when loud, important people try to break things they don't understand. Caleb thought this was all a game. He thought his title and his father's money made him untouchable. He thought experience was just another word for obsolete. He learned better. I approved the Sidewinder route, locked the classified files, and poured myself a cup of coffee from Caleb's expensive espresso machine. It tasted better than anything I'd had in 8 years. Paperwork isn't boring. It's the thin line between civilization and chaos. Yesterday I opened that line just wide enough to let one particular monster out, long enough to eat the idiot who thought he could play with forces beyond his understanding. Tomorrow, I'll go back to being invisible, back to being the boring guy who sends emails about password policies and makes sure the cameras work. But today, I'm the regional security director of a facility that ships industrial equipment and occasionally saves the world. I think I'm gonna like this promotion. Thanks for listening to my story. Hit subscribe if you want to hear more tales from the invisible people who keep America running. And if you're ever tempted to mess with the quiet guy in the cubicle who just handles paperwork, maybe think twice. You never know what kind of monsters he's keeping in their boxes.